Two-time Hall of Fame inductees, Brent Godarzi and Marty Young. Back-to-back #1 trucking firm in the nation. Back-to-back best attorney and best law firm in East Texas.
Hello everybody, welcome to the Gilmer Buckeyes Coaching Show. I'm Todd Robinson, your host of the show today, with the head coach and athletic director of the 4-0 Gilmer Buckeyes, Mr. Alan Metzel. Alan, you are halfway through the regular season. As you always say, the third of the season is done, but what a gauntlet that you set up in the pre-district schedule. You're sitting here at 4-0. Great game, exactly what we expected from Lindale. How are you feeling about things now that we're a third of the way home?
Good. Thankful. When you come into a season, when you're playing all these guys that are highly rated in the 4A big school division, especially when you got a young team, 8 starters you got to replace on the offensive side. We knew it was going to be a challenge, and each week I think we've taken steps in different areas that has gotten us closer to where we want to be going into this next phase. And so to be 4-0, to see some of the growth that we've had on the field and in the locker room, both, I feel good about where we are. Well,
it's, as you said at the beginning of the season, it's very purposeful to uncover the things that really you want to see in yourself, to know what you need to work on before games start counting. Is it actually more difficult when you're 4-0 after you've scheduled everybody who will play you and punched above your weight class for 4 straight weeks? I saw a comment that somebody made to me that said basically, and I didn't even realize it, Kilgore, Chapel Hill, Lindale is all in that District of Doom in Division I in 4A. And I think other than anybody else in that district, we basically just played that entire district schedule. I think all 3 of those teams may be playoff teams.
I agree.
In terms of how does that prepare you now for 2 weeks off and going into our district? What's been the method behind the madness?
Well, I think that when you play teams that you got to gear up for, when you're playing at Kilgore, you're playing Chapel Hill first game of the year, and they're coming off of being, just seconds away from being in a state championship. When you're playing at Lindale and the atmosphere and the way they're bringing every single rep and play and so forth to the forefront, and they're putting the pressure on you, you're playing a round 4 or 5 game, that feel. And so it truly does expose weaknesses, and I know there's people that, go, we're not this or we're not that. No, we're not yet. We're not 4 rounds deep in the playoffs yet. And so there are things to fix. So it exposes and really does tell you where you are. I think it's been very beneficial. We've got this unique scenario of being off for a couple of weeks to work on some of those things, to be able to recreate them in practice and talk through and teach through, these are the things we've got to do, this is how we'll handle it better the next time this happens, etc. And the guys are going to be locked in on that because they have that example of the game and that pressure and intensity to heighten their awareness.
Well, that's one thing that I commented on the way back to some people that were asking me. Really, that was almost like playing 4 straight playoff games before you enter district competition. Certainly, we got tough teams in our district.
Absolutely.
But in terms of the size, the magnitude, the speed, the athleticism, arguably speaking, we may have just played a playoff gauntlet of 4 straight games. Having that in the beginning of your season and then having 2 weeks to kind of recoup and take a breath, I know that is purposeful at the end of the day, but what are the real advantages now to having 2 weeks off and getting to that point where you can prep for district?
Well, I think one of the things we talk about with the kids is when we're here and we are on and we're going. And then having this extra little break, we're going to use this week. We'll still lift, we'll still practice, we'll still have a run through, all those things. But for example, they'll have tomorrow afternoon off. And that's scheduled, and so you're off. So it's a chance for them to kind of relax from an intensity standpoint, to let their bodies recoup a little bit, to get a little bit more rest, that kind of thing. We'll hit it hard Tuesday and Wednesday. We'll do a run through Thursday. We're going to take our kids over and read to the elementary on Friday. That's a good thing to do. It's good for the kids. It's good for the kids at the elementary. Those are things that you don't want to miss, but you've got to find the right place and time to do it in. This is a week for that. Then we'll come back on that next week and we'll hit it hard, and we'll amp it back up. So it is unique. We haven't done this before, but I think we have a good plan for it. And I think it's going to be a real positive.
Yeah, I really think it's worked out almost perfectly. Even putting Lindale exactly where they fell into this schedule just before a couple of weeks off before Pleasant Grove. One of Coach Cochran's assistants, and obviously both of those coaching staffs through Coach Maddox are tight, and we love those guys in Lindale. We appreciate their hospitality. Great group of kids.
Yes.
And one of the things that we talked about before the game is that this is, a really good fight is about a matchup. And the Lindale matchup is a lot like the Pleasant Grove matchup. I saw some of the kids yesterday that are working around the community in their normal jobs, and all of them to a man had just said, "Boy, Mr. Todd, we're hurting." It was a physical game. The size, the power, the just pounding that Lindale brought to the table behind that big O line, with 2 weeks in between, it kind of does set us up for what will be our main district foe, Pleasant Grove, in terms of the style matchup. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, Pleasant Grove is always physically tough. They're a program, much like Lindale is. They at every level they're going to run the same thing. They're being taught the same thing. They have the same ideas. They're trying to create a type of mentality, and so they're not a team that's going to just give up and go away. Whereas some places you get ahead and they just kind of fall apart or whatever. Pleasant Grove and Lindale are very similar in those ways. So even though maybe their offensive style is different, that sort of thing, it's the program, and that's what's similar. The mental toughness, that sort of thing. So I think it's a great preview of what we'll play here in a few weeks up in Texarkana, and it'll give us a chance to review how we did well, things we've got to improve on. We'll try and tighten those things up and be ready in a couple of weeks.
Well, one of the things that you said right before the game, we talked before we went upstairs, and you said 4 quarters. And boy, were you right about that. Let's start just kind of reviewing the game and what we've got to look at, because we knew that it was going to be a battle.
Right.
You had said it was going to be a battle. We'd said literally since last Sunday, this would be the best team that we faced all year.
Yes.
Talent-wise, Chapel Hill was scary, Kilgore was scary, obviously all the speed and size that Paris normally has. But to your point, you just knew that this was going to be a dogfight to the end. And it seemed like our kids kind of had to reach back and take the punches and roll with the punches and keep finding a way to answer because it was literally all the way down to the last play of the game. Let's look at some highlights.
Okay, we'll start off here. First drive of the game, we're trying to get athletes the ball in space, and so we get out and line up our guys close to the sideline, kind of a Baylor Art Browse type mentality. And if they're not going to press it up, then we're just going to take the snap and throw it out there. There's Tarek circled out there. Tarek had a big game, over 100 yards receiving. Put it in his hands and then just let him go. He makes a guy miss, and then he heads down the sideline. It was close to a 30-yard gain, and that set us up for a would-be field goal. We hate that we had to stop short of a touchdown at that point, but we did put points on the board, and we're pleased about that. This next one, we drive down, we get inside the 10, Lindale then stiffens, takes us all the way to a 4th down scenario, and so we know they're doubling Rowan everywhere he goes. So we've run several times the past several weeks a little reverse counter play 2-row. So watch him here. You're going to see him. I'll circle him on the video here. I can get it to go. There we go. And he's going to come in just like he always does on this play. And we're going to see Caden fakes to him. You see the defenders kind of hesitate, and then we slip Ashton right out where he was, wide open. Caden did a great job of just getting it up and over the defenders, putting the ball in Ashton's hands for our touchdown.
Yeah, brilliant play call, but it seemed like all night long Coach Cochran had planned like this was the state championship. You could tell they worked on us during the summer, and it kind of seemed like what they had decided is that 17 is not going to beat us, and we're going to cut the head off the snake with number 9, and we're going to try to force you with your youngsters, and I just don't think that they really had any idea what kind of firepower was going to come at them with those youngsters.
We've got some guys who really have a lot of athleticism. You know, you're talking about Tarek, you're talking about Will Henderson, who is about to have a highlight here. I don't know if you are aware that Will's middle name is
Tomahawk.
Yeah, it's not a nickname.
Exactly.
It's Will Tomahawk.
It is his nickname.
Yeah.
But that is his middle name.
Which is just awesome. It's amazing, especially when you watch him run. But here he goes on an inside counter play, really well blocked. We bring our receiver across the line, and once he hits that crease, I mean, you see right there, there's anybody else, they would have tackled him right there. But when you got a guy who runs a 10-400, then it's hard to get your hands on him. You can see it from the back end here. The linemen do a great job of creating this crease. You can see all the little lines I've got drawn on our double teams, our kick out by our center. Here comes Kendall Jackson leading through. He's going to take care of the linebacker right there, and now it's just Will to the house. And
it is hard to imagine at the high school level how fast that really is.
Right.
And I don't think Lindell truly was prepared, especially for Will, because they kind of seem to have every other threat covered as best they could, but when you've got that kind of next level speed, I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say he may be one of the fastest juniors on the planet in terms of high school.
He's up there.
It's world-class speed.
He can really go. Our fourth highlight here is our black flag, and there were so many plays where they just rallied and really did a tremendous job against that big offensive line.
Huge.
Yeah, they're monstrous. You got the Poe kid at right guard, he's 6'6", 280, or left guard. You got 52, who's like 6'3", 280. He's I think been offered by Sam Houston State. So I mean, really big and talented players up there, and their scheme is good. So you're going to see here Aaron Bell, Jeremiah Noble, Braylon Ward, and I've got them circled there. Just watch the job they do here at the point of attack, being physical. Jeremiah had 16 tackles in the game.
He played the best game of his career.
No doubt. That he took a step up into another echelon.
Yeah.
And now he's created a new standard, and so we've got to hold him to that one. So we want to see that every week. Here, this is a deep pass to Tarek Tate. The way they were playing us as we were coming across in motion, they were rolling to cover 3, and so we ran a little corner route with Tarek, and I mean, Caden just threw a dime on him. Yeah, that was a beautiful throw, and then Tarek did a great job just carrying the defender down the field. The ball comes out, but it was once he got slammed on the ground here. You can see right there is when it popped out, so they ruled him down, and rightly so. But huge gain, and it was coming right. We had stopped them coming out of half, and then bam, we hit this, and then we're
very timely.
Yes,
it seemed like the momentum finally kind of swung on exactly that play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a big one. Took a chunk. So you can see this corner route. He's going to run, gets the corner turned around. Caden just put it right on him. And big play lineman gave us a great platform to throw from, and so now we're down inside the 5-yard line. Now we come right back to Ashton, and the line just does a great job. They just move everybody in front. You can see them just running with them, and Ashton crashes into the end zone for the score. So, like you say, a big momentum swing there. Now I'm going to go from there to our extra point. They had missed an extra point. We ended up missing, so I wasn't going to run this. But then once we ended up missing an extra point, we had seen this in film study that they left this outside flank open, and so we went ahead and swung the ball just to put a little bit more pressure on them. When you're up 8, it's a little bit different than just being up 7.
Right.
And so great job by Cade Bowman getting it on him. You can see the line create the wall to the corner, and Ashton beats him to the sideline. Caught him off guard and stole a point.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, not only that, but it just kind of put an extra little nail in the coffin in terms of them saying, oh my gosh, here we go again. Mm-hmm. And Ashton, I thought, just that whole series, being able to, how quickly we got down the field to the line of scrimmage. Before they knew what hit them, there were 8 points on the board. Mm-hmm. And it was what they, I think, were the most fearful of in terms of, if it gets away from us. Mm-hmm. And I thought we did a good job, not just kind of smelling blood in the water, but executing, especially the O-line. They did. They've come so far, and it's not even fun.
They really have grown up a lot, especially considering 4 of them are first-year starters up there. So they really have come a long way. Our next one, again, D-line, they get a great push. That was the O-line. This one is Chris Guillen. This is a 3rd down and 3 play. Chris is playing more and more linebacker for us. Number 19, I've got him circled here. Watch him slice through. He's going to see the opening, comes through, and then gets the tackle in the backfield, which ends up forcing a punt. So, those kind of things in the large scheme of the game, a lot of times they get missed, but that was a huge play right there at that point in time, and then creating the punt. So, excellent job by Chris. I'm enjoying seeing what I'm seeing from him. This next one is Amaro Arona. He's actually just off the screen, lined up over their 3rd receiver, but he comes on a stunt from depth. Right. And they run an outside run play, and just watch the job he does of coming through and just wiping everybody out.
That's just a great football play.
Yeah.
And of course, we kind of knew that from watching film, but it seemed like the longer that Lindell stayed in it, the more they leaned on Thurman, their quarterback, mm-hmm. number 8. And his legs, and they really kind of go as he goes in terms of their quarterback. That play was kind of, I realized Coach Edward called that stunt, mm-hmm. but not everybody can do that athletically.
He got under the receiver, went through the block, and then made the tackle for loss in the backfield. That's why he's an all-state player.
Yeah. And kind of made it look easy. He instinctually, defensively, he may be one of, we've had such a blessing the last 2 years and having linebackers that can tackle, mm-hmm. and that's an obvious play right there. That's an example of that.
Absolutely. Here we are. We're trying to, we're almost to our 4-minute mark where you're trying to slow down and run the ball a little bit more and that sort of thing. It's close to that.
Well, if you were trying to do slow down on this play, you got this wrong.
Don't use will. Don't use tomahawk. So I'm just fine with him taking it to the house. But we're going to hand it to him. We're running to our sideline to the short side, but watch the blocks along the way. Watch our left tackle, Sean Wallace here. So there's Tomahawk. Here's our left tackle. You're going to see him. Our fullback gets his block on the outside backer. Our inside receiver, Brendan Webb, takes care of the safety, and then our X receiver, Tarek Tate, takes care of the corner. That really played a lot into why we scored. But then you got a guy who can run a game for it. Yeah. So there's the block by Sean, and here comes the block by the fullback. Take a look at Brendan Webb and how he's staying on his block, and then you got Tarek out there. Tremendous job by those guys doing their job,
right? Which
put Will in a position to then look really good right there running down the field.
That's just not fair, Alan. Mm-hmm. When you got that kind of speed, it's a threat on every play, but the important part is that you got 10 other guys out there that know that. We're sitting inside of our own 20 mm-hmm. and thinking, boy, we're going to have to march the length of the field to really put these guys away. And just to know that, all I got to do is get my block. All I got to do is do my job. If I can do my job, mm-hmm. that guy can do that.
That's right.
That gives an offense confidence because that's to the short side of the field.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, that play is designed just to get positive yards.
And keep the clock running.
And boom, there's a home run that just kind of happens. Why? Because everybody did exactly what they were designed to do.
That's correct.
And then, it helps when 22 can do that.
Right.
But that just seemed to kind of, there were people literally on the Lindell side heading for their cars as soon as that play happened. Right. And I think that kind of what ultimately took the wind out of the sails for Lindell as well.
No doubt.
Well, we did know that we were expecting kind of a state championship type field. Obviously, Lindell took that approach. But it's kind of nothing new in that we take everybody's best shot because we got that G on. It means that this is kind of everybody's Super Bowl. After 4 of those weeks going into district and kind of some time off, do you think maybe that this group of young guys, like you talked about G-Man, Jeremiah, you talk about this is just the 4th start for Caden, who's now 4-0. You talk about Will, who's stepped up big time since Ashton's kind of taken some preventative time off and had his kind of first start. But this is a completely different type of a young team now that feels like we've punched above our weight class, we've taken everybody's best shot, and we're still standing here 4-0. Now what?
No, I would definitely think that. And I think that the now what we're going to define over the course of the next 2 weeks. The now what is come every single day. When we're out there, you're going 100%. We're focusing on what we need to fix and fixing it, not going, oh yeah, well, we're pretty good and settling for pretty good. We don't want to be pretty good. We want to be great. And so in order to be great, you've got to do it every single day. I think we have the makings of a group that will do that. So I'm going into these next couple of weeks excited about what we should be able to gain from it, and hopefully play our best game yet when we go play our first district game at Pleasant Grove.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit, because the last time that you had a team at Pleasant Grove was exactly that. At that point in the season, everything came together. It was the best they played by far and away. Big Brother Tennyson had his best game, and there had kind of been a little bit of a stigma because Pleasant Grove, obviously, before the last 2 years when we took home the district crown, had beaten Gilmer and beaten Gilmer here. It seemed like we got all over that hurdle. We know Pleasant Grove is a program. We know they're great. We've been around the last 15 years, and we know the Pleasant Grove Hawk history with Gilmer. How does this team feel, do you think, in terms of going into that? Because I don't sense that there's any kind of bad vibes or drama. I feel like that our kids feel like we're just now hitting our stride.
Oh, I agree. I think that, at this point there's a healthy respect, but they're more focused on what we're trying to accomplish. That's where you want to get to. You want to be focused on, okay, what are we doing? Because truly that's who we're always playing. Whether it's someone who's better than us or someone who's not as good as us, quote unquote, we want to try and be better than we were yesterday or last Friday night or whatever the case may be. And as long as we'll have that mindset, then we'll be at our best that we can be right there, And so I think that we have the right mindset. We're not too high. We're not too overconfident. We understand we have plenty of things to fix. But I think that also excites them in understanding, man, if we get just some of these things ironed out, we could be really good. So that's exciting. That adds fuel to the fire.
Yeah. Last point, where football games are won and lost, as you know, the trenches. I have been most impressed when you look at that game. You know that Lindell was going to play hard, but you also see how disciplined they were and how clean they played. Well, so did the Buckeyes. Gilmer played a clean game, and I would make the argument that we more than held our own in the trenches on both sides of the ball. And with all that youth and all of that experience playing 50-plus kids in those previous 3 games, it started to kind of show up and pay dividends in the trenches. Talk about your coaching staff and what you guys are doing in terms of the offensive line and the defensive line and the improvement that you see there and what it promises with things to come when you got all that speed and weapons behind you. Again, if those guys just take care of business up front, great things can happen.
Well, football will never become a 7-on-7 game as long as they keep it the way it is right now until they try and make it like a Pro Bowl or something. But if the rules are the way they are now, you've got to win in the trenches, and so all the other stuff is nice, but you've got to be able to hit people in the mouth and be able to move them off the ball. You've got to be able to protect. Offensively, on defense, you've got to create pressure. You've got to move the offensive line backwards, especially with all the inside zone and zone read and stuff. It's all about creating penetration, being on the other side of the line of scrimmage. And so those 2 places are just so paramount to your success. I feel like on both sides, we're really gaining ground in those areas. Defensively, we got some guys who come back and they're playing at a super high level. Braylon Ward, for example, is just, if you watch him, he doesn't have all the superstar highlights because he plays nose guard. But if you're a linebacker, you love him because he is destroying centers
double teams every play.
Yes, and then fighting off and getting in on plays, as difficult as that is. So he's really playing at a high level. Seth Jordan has stepped his game up.
Huge.
he's playing big time right now. Connor Dunn, Dustin Morrow, we've got some of the other young guys that are rotating in and they're coming on. So we're open by week 6, 7. You start being able to notice some of their names that they're flashing up there. And when we're talking about this, you're talking about the front 7. So you're talking about Amaro and Jeremiah on the outside. You're talking about Kendall Jackson, Aaron Bell, Chris Guillen, some of these guys, Elias Castillo, who are making their presence felt. That's making our defense as formidable as it is. On the offensive side, really stepping up, the guy that has exceeded expectations this year is our center, Braden Seymour.
Absolutely.
He's
Absolutely.
really been consistent. He plays his tail off. He knows where to go. He's putting his body. He's not that big, but he gets his body on the person he's got to get, and just doing a super job there. Lucas Cano, we have high expectations for Lucas. He's a big, young, strong guy, but he's still young. You're talking 15 years old. So his ceiling is still yet to be seen, I think. He's got a lot of potential. Got Elazar Posada. Elazar tore his ACL as a freshman, played a little bit as a sophomore, didn't play last year, and now he's our starting right tackle, and he's coming
playing his
on.
tail off.
He really is. So just really pleased with him. Left side, Javarian Martin, just because he works so hard in the weight room, has become a really good guard. And it's got a lot of pop and really moves people in his double teams. And then our left tackle, Sean Wallace. Sean moved in a couple of years ago and he's got a great physique, and he's getting to where he understands more of what we're trying to do and accomplish. And then you got Jaron Pilcher, who just about backs up everybody and is playing multiple positions. Those guys are doing a super job, and Coach Griffiths and Coach Schaefer are doing a great job working with them and challenging them every week and pushing them hard. So you have to.
Well, look at the schedule. I mean, I talked to one man that you just mentioned in Brookshire's, and he has come so far, but the expectations come with it, because I think they're starting to taste now how good they can get.
Right.
And when you've got guys that are, like the Roe Llewellyns and the Ashton Haynes and the Tomahawks that are sitting there behind you, one of the biggest surprises that I've been asked about, and I asked about it in church this morning, is, hey, Caden can run too.
Oh, yeah.
Well, yes, he is an outstanding athlete,
Right.
but you hadn't really had to go that route at this point, because you got so many other places to do that. You can kind of soften that blow, and he's continuing to take strides. Remember, that's just his 4th start as a quarterback.
That's right.
That's kind of crazy when you think about.
I've thrown like 3 varsity passes.
And
the end of this year.
And that pass that he put on to Eric on that out route is a college level throw. It seems that the ceiling kind of keeps getting higher and higher in terms of how good we can be. And I think the timing has worked out perfectly with these 2 weeks, where you can have all the momentum and everybody healthy. You feel good about where we are on that side. I mean, I know it was a physical game, but not a lot of kids up here getting treatment on Sunday morning. It all seems to be all systems go.
Right. No, we're ready to go. We're excited about where we are in the year. We're excited about what's ahead, and I think the guys this week will be good for them. And then here we go.
Well, the second chapter of this 2022 season, the middle portion, as we talked about, which is the most important because it determines everything that comes after that, is district. And district competition starts. Here we've got 2 weeks off, folks, so the Buckeyes will not be playing this Friday night or the next Friday night. But the Friday after that, folks, I got to tell you, get your tail to Texarkana, Texas, because these young Buckeyes deserve your support. And I am looking forward to the Army traveling to Texarkana and making sure that Army of Buckeyes looks across when you're an opposing fan and you're hosting the Buckeyes. Hey, it's intimidating when you look across and you say,
outnumbered. Yeah.
We're outnumbered. We're outvoiced. Obviously the band, and Eric Gray does such a great job. They were hyped up facing the Lindale State Championship band, and I think they won halftime. I was proud of the band. But it all counts from here on in. Right. Everybody's now 0-0. And you kind of got that mentality going into this next round where everything counts.
That's it. We're excited. We're on go, and let's go do it.
Great. Well, folks, 2 weeks. We're going to be off. If you see the guys around town, encourage them. They've fought their tails off all summer. We forget about the heat and everything that they've done. to get themselves to this point. But 4-0 for this young Buckeye team after the gauntlet that they just ran, punching above their weight class with 4 bigger schools. Now everything gets even between those white lines, and the Gilmer Buckeyes folks are still the Gilmer Buckeyes. So for myself, Todd Robinson, head coach and athletic director Alan Metzel, we appreciate your support, and we'll see you in 3 weeks in Pleasant Grove. Go Buckeyes.